Yes.
Get ready to take control of your own financial destiny. It's time to build your dream business. Welcome to the Empowered Entrepreneur.
This just got exciting.
With your host, Spider Graham. Your education starts now.
Hello and welcome to the broadcast. This is Spider Graham. Hey, and this time around, I want to talk about a topic that often gets misunderstood, especially when we talk about in business, and that is the idea of embracing failure. Now, you might have said to yourself, hey, Spider, did you fall and hit your head? Why would I want to embrace failure? And it sounds a bit like an oxymoron, but the challenge we run into when we look at failure is we have all these negative connotations. And most of us think about failure in association with growing up, and oftentimes academic. You know, we were always terrified when we went to school that we might fail. I failed my exam. I failed my course. I'm humiliated. My parents are ashamed, whatever. And I still run into this as an educator. I'm still dealing with adult learners who are often really terrified about the learning process because they're really constantly worrying about the evaluation process. How am I going to evaluate that? Is this going to be on the test? What do I need to remember? What is important? That kind of stuff. And I try to get them to think about the holistic approach to education. And of course, the reality of most of education and knowledge is we don't know what we need until we need it. And so the idea of remembering everything is useful, but we do remember the things that are important to us, and we remember the things that we utilize. Now, not to get on a long, big speech about the power of education, but to point out that failure is part of that process. Now, I look at it this way, and this is the deal I worked out with my students because so many of them were concerned with this idea that I was going to be evaluating them and that they might fail. So I started working with my students directly and really listened to them and what it is that they were concerned about. And I started incorporating things in throughout all of my classes. And I looked at it this way. If we take a test, let's say, and let's say you don't do well on the test, you get a 60%. Well, what this test has allowed you to do in some ways is to identify the stuff you don't know. It identifies the stuff that you're comfortable with, but it identifies the stuff that you don't know as well. And we can look at this as an opportunity, saying, okay, fantastic. So what we've done is we've got you 60% of the way there, but there's some stuff you don't understand yet. Let's go back and look at that. Let's review that. Let's reinforce our understanding of that area, and let's take the test again. And now you take the test again, and you get an 80%. Well, guess what? We're seeing improvement. It's also still pointing out that you're not doing so well or not understanding certain areas, so let's do it again. And what I said to the students is, anytime you take a test, anytime you do a project and you get a grade that you're not happy with, you have the right to redo it as many times as you want to until you get to the grade that you're satisfied with. Now, and by the way, the students love this approach, and some actually don't even take advantage of it. Some will get a lower grade on something, and I'll say, you can redo it. And they'll no, I'm fine with a C. I don't necessarily get it personally because the opportunity to learn and explore. But I do look at this as a teacher as being a very positive way to use failure to help push us forward. And so in this case, it's really not failure in the same sense of, your life falling apart failure. It's failure more as a feedback loop, some sort of a tool to help identify what's not working. And by the way, the same thing holds true for how we approach failure in business. And let's be realistic. You are not going to ever run a business that is failure-free. You're not going to live a life that is failure-free. You're going to do plenty of things along the way that you're going to screw up on, and you're going to learn plenty from. And let's focus on the positive here. Failure is really about education. It's about identifying things that don't work or don't work for us. Okay? You touch that electric fence with your finger. Guess what? A little bit of reinforcement, a little failure, and you'll probably not do that again. And so we constantly have an opportunity in business to use the lessons that we learn through doing things wrong to help us to do them right. And the reality of most education, and for most of us, is that we learn best by experience. And I can sit there and tell you all sorts of things, but until you get in the trenches and do it yourself, a lot of those lessons don't really stick. They're not really going to be reinforced because you have to experience some of these things firsthand. Now, hopefully you don't have to touch an electric fence to understand that you're going to get a shock if you do it. But in a lot of cases, especially when you're raising children, that seems to be the MO for them. Well, okay, Dad told me not to do this. I'm going to try it anyway. So we learn by the experiences that we have, and failure is one of those experiences. So how do we approach failure in business as a positive? I remember when I started my first company, we had about $10,000 to get things started. We were happy about that. We'd put some money away and really had something to work with. But what we did with that money was just poor. It was just ill-conceived, and we were buying marketing in the wrong places and really didn't know how to spend it wisely. Well, guess what? We learned an awful lot. That $10,000 worth of education has probably saved me multiple variations of that, tens of thousands of dollars as a result of having gone through that in the first place. Now, I'm not saying you want to go out and fail. It's something we all try to avoid. But what I'm saying, you are going to. And when it happens, instead of being surprised and depressed and saying, oh, my life is over, how do I get away from this pain? And by the way, we do feel it, okay? Failing a business hurts an awful lot. You put so much of your time and your energy and your soul into it. But what really makes it take place, what makes failure go away, or what makes it worth it, I should say, is persistence. Do not give up, okay? You are going to mess up. You are going to have some bad days. You are going to make some mistakes. There's a great story told about Tom Watson Sr., who was the founder of IBM. And apparently, one day, the middle manager made a mistake that cost IBM a multi-million-dollar deal. And this is 1950s money, so it was a big deal. And toward the end of the day, the manager pretty much showed up in Tom Watson's office, hat in hand, saying, well, I suppose you're going to want my resignation. And Tom Watson looked at him and said, are you crazy? I just spent millions of dollars on your education. Now go back to work. I love that story. I love what it depicts, and I think it's an important thing. Now, here's the challenge in business. So many people are terrified of making mistakes that they always do the safe things. They always do the things that they know won't get them in trouble. They always do the things that will help them keep their jobs. Well, when you're an entrepreneur, you have a lot more flexibility. You have a lot more opportunities to take chances. I'm not saying stupid chances. I'm not saying dangerous chances. Educated chances, but chances nonetheless. Things can fail. Okay, we're going to run a new marketing campaign. Oh, well, that didn't work out for us. So what did we learn from this? Well, we learned that we probably shouldn't spend money like that, like crazy people, because it didn't really work out for us. That kind of thing. So we find ways to use the failure to help propel us forward. And so the takeaway from today is, first of all, understand that failure is not necessarily bad. We can learn plenty from it. Second of all, don't be afraid to fail. Take advantage of the opportunities to take chances from time to time so that you can learn new things and so that you can delve into new areas. If you're always doing the safe thing over and over again, you never really get a chance to expand and broaden your horizons and grow your business. And finally, be willing to learn from your mistakes. Okay? Pay attention to the lessons being taught and never, ever give up. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for your time. As always, please feel free to join us at SpiderGraham.com. We have a conversation that's going. We're talking to entrepreneurs. We're talking to small business owners. We're talking to people who work for other companies. We're talking to people who want to do a better job, make the world a better place, and we'd love to have you join us. Thanks so much. I'll talk to you soon.
For more free resources and advice for entrepreneurs, visit SpiderGraham.com and become a subscriber today.